Okay, good to see you all. So here we go on part three of uh, the secrets of Shikantaza. And as I think upon this, I realize I've been giving away the secret. Aren't secrets something you're not supposed to tell? And yet I've been telling them to all of you. So I guess you have to hold them close and not just, you know, we'll keep them between us, okay? Just don't tell anyone else. um, No, they're open secrets, right? They're open secrets. Um, I want to take a little time to just kind of review where we've been. Part of what we've been doing is I've been sharing some pointers to um, the point of what I've been sharing. A lot of the preliminary stuff is about closing up the gaps in our practice, kind of the holes through which things leak, through which our concentration, our immersion can leak, our meditation, sometimes called Jariki energy, that, that pure energy of being present. In my experience, if we're not watching, it will tend to fluctuate. We'll tend to be in and out of practice, and it's very easy to not know that we're doing that. So when we're working on Shikantaza or meditation without an object, what we're working with is we're getting, we're using some technique is usually needed to get to the point where we can just be in that space of meditation without having to do anything, right? The But if we don't, if we're not fairly thorough in how we deal with our practice and accessing it, and accessing those spaces, then it's not going to work as well. So this is the reason I'm emphasizing technique for a technique-less practice. And the basic thing that I see, this comes through studying my own practice. So I deal everything I talk about, I've dealt with myself, or sometimes I continue to deal with myself. That that our practice can become very easily uneven or unsteady, or not quite solid without us realizing it. So uh, we've been we've been working with some of those pointers, and I want to work with them again. The Behind it, there's a couple of ideas. One is that we want our practice to be like a steady flame beneath a teapot. Then the pot boils and we get tea in a fairly efficient manner, right? Um, the If we're turning the flame up and down, turning it off for a while, wandering off, coming back, turning it up, I mean, it could take hours to get a cup of tea, right? So the this is if we ever feel like our practice isn't working quite as well as it could. These are difficult areas, right? Because we don't want to get graspy in our practice, right? We don't want to get goal oriented in that sense. And yet we all aspire to something or we wouldn't be practicing. Um, so it's not about improving ourselves. It's not about grasping after something. And yet it's about cultivating our presence and immersion in the practice. You know, it said there's no bad meditations, and it's true. The only bad meditation is the one you don't do. But if all your meditations aren't good, aren't strong, well, then it's something we should notice and we can do something about it. You know, it's not one side or the other. Somewhere in between is the truth of it. Part of what we're working with comes from uh, the balance between attention and awareness. There's two aspects of mind that function simultaneously in meditation. We don't really find this so much in the ancient texts. It's come clearer through actually brain research by people who also meditate, who've kind of put two and two together to explain things that couldn't exactly have been known originally in the practice. So we all hear that we can't multitask. In other words, we can't jump from task to task to task effectively, even though we all try to, probably at times. But it doesn't really work. What we're talking about there is when we put attention on one thing and we keep shifting our attention, right? That doesn't really work. Attention is the more focused aspect of our practice. It's when we drop into the breath and we're really feeling the breath in a close way from the inside. That's attention. We're paying close attention. It's a more narrow focus. It's more one-pointed. But there's also our peripheral awareness is also functioning at once, and they're two different things. Brain scans show that two different areas of the brain light up, depending on which one you're doing, whether you're doing that focused attention or whether your primary energy is in broader awareness. The reason it's important that we know this, or it's helpful to know this, is we try to practice by putting our primary attention in the present moment on an object, typically the breath, and keep it there, but we keep getting drawn elsewhere, right? And being drawn elsewhere, we know is part of the practice. We notice ourselves get drawn elsewhere when we bring ourselves back, right? However, there's a natural amnesia that tends to happen when we fall into thought. We've all experienced it, right? We can be thinking for 5 minutes and all of a sudden we realize I'm supposed to be meditating. Now we remember that, we bring it back. The remembering is part of the practice. It's not a fault, it happens to everyone. It's part of how we build that muscle of attention, learning to bring that attention away from thinking and back to direct experience of reality. As I pointed out before, when we talk about bringing our attention to this present moment, an object in this present moment, what we're bringing our attention to is the reality of our lives, which is only happening now. So it's kind of a big deal. It's not just a mechanical exercise we're doing. But if we become cognizant of these two dimensions happening, a lot of you who've done retreat practice have probably found your way into this state automatically in retreat. But sometimes we can be really deeply focused in the breath, and at the same time our awareness will pick up some sort of thought process just beginning to form, and we're immersed in the breath, but that other part of our mind goes, oh, I see you. That's not what we're doing now. Sometimes, how many people have ever experienced that you can head a whole thought train off of the path? So it's helpful to bring into our understanding that that's what we're doing. We're using that broader awareness when we're doing that. It doesn't mean that we can't still be focused upon our object. Who, if we're doing a koan like who or mu that requires that one point of focus, it's entirely possible to have a primary focus there and a larger focus to be heading off distractions. And that's something if we become clear in ourselves on how that operates, we can use it. And it's a helpful thing to cultivate. And so different kinds of practice tend to put more energy into one side or the other. Shikantaza practice tends to be more broader awareness focused. We head towards a broad awareness through which things can come and go without us getting caught in them. Then when we're working on a koan like mu or hu, or we're working very closely in the breath, that's a one-pointed attention practice, right? It's very helpful for me to realize that these things are implicit in practice, but not usually spelled out. So it's something worth noticing. We have to do both. Ideally, we do both poles of practice. Does that make sense? We practice a tightly focused, just like, I don't know, at the gym, you might do weight training and you might do aerobic, right? It's like there's two aspects of fitness. Fitness isn't all one thing. Well, practice isn't all one thing. So if we can cultivate the one-pointedness, which is where we tend to start, because if we can't keep our primary attention in one place, it's all over the place. We never get anywhere, do we? We can't actually sustain a broader attention that is in Shikantaza, really, in just sitting practice, it really becomes self-sustaining. It's if you notice, okay, everybody look up to the left, everybody look up to the right. Okay, it takes mild effort to turn our heads, but to bring that area of the room into our awareness actually doesn't take energy. Awareness functions in the background all the time. We mostly don't see it, but we couldn't show up for this talk at a certain time. We couldn't navigate our days if we weren't functioning from an effortless awareness all the time. It really doesn't take energy just to be aware. It's part of the natural. Unless we're unconscious, we're aware. It just is part of the package, right? We don't tend to notice that. It's like a background. We tend to notice the objects of awareness, the things we focus on. In the more expanded practices like Shikantaza, or the equivalent in Tibetan practices called Dzogchen, these expanded awareness practices, we're going into that, we're looking for that background of awareness. We're going to do an exercise on that in a little while here together. And yet our ability to stay with that is built up by the fact that we're practicing more focused forms of meditation, attention on close objects like mu or hu, if you're doing those beginning koans or upon the breath. So the other thing that the awareness part of our mind can give us in the more focused aspect of our practice is it can be watching for blips or dropouts in our attention. And it's very common for our energy or focus to be, as I said, to fluctuate, to be leaking away unconsciously when we're placing our primary attention on some object without us realizing it. So, and again, this is not something that is, none of this is foreign to us. The example I used in the last talk, I think, was you're driving along, your favorite song comes on the radio, you're so into it, you're hearing the bass, you're hearing the drums, you're hearing the guitar, you're hearing every nuance of the voice, you're singing along, you're belting it out, you're completely immersed in that song, and a cat runs in the road, you're still gonna hit the brake, we hope. If your broader peripheral awareness is functioning while you're completely focused in the song, that's an example of what I'm talking about, right? The two things can overlay. So that broader awareness can kind of keep a watch on, are we really being steady in our practice? So what we did last time, which is what I want to do again, is to drop in the body and just start looking at our exhales. This is really, really basic, but sometimes we really have to go back to basics, because I certainly have found that there's places that the best metaphor I know is my practice is springing leaks. You know, the part of it's leaking away. So, a couple of other pointers. Meditation's a physical practice. We want to drop into the body. We talked about working with the hara last time. I probably won't go very deeply into it this time. The hara is that point in the center of the body, a few inches below the navel. If the attention can drop and watch the breath from that point, great. But for our purposes now, continuity of attention is more important. So there's this image I like to use, which is if we can imagine dropping a flat rock into a swimming pool filled with jello. That rock would make its way down in no hurry until it found a natural resting place at the bottom. In just such a way, can we just take a few minutes right now, let our attention drop out of our heads and find the natural resting place in the body. You can work with the hara, it's a great thing to work with. But if your attention doesn't naturally rest there, it doesn't matter. Let it rest in the heart area, solar plexus, belly, anywhere else. Pointer one is really sink into the physical experience of breathing. Meditation has a mental aspect, but if anything, it's more physical. If we're not feeling the breath coming and going as though we're very close to it, in fact, even feeling as though we're inside it, then we're not close enough. It's easy to be, surprisingly easy to still be in our heads watching some image or idea of the breath. We want to really feel the breath come and go. Number one, physically. Number two, we want to be interested in it. It's not a purely passive exercise. I mean, if I think, oh, I just got to follow the breath. Oh my, somebody's telling me to follow. Oh, hey, what's interesting in that? No, we have to take an interest. That it's possible to. Many people are too passive in their practice. Practice is an investigative adventure. It's a journey. It's an exploration. We have to have some of that attitude. When it comes to the breath, to feeling it, all that means is how much can we feel? And can we feel how different just the exhales, just the beginning, middle, end of an exhale are? Can we really sink into that as though we're inside the breath, as though we are the breath? We don't step out of the experience to start thinking about it. This is close investigation, which is just being with feeling. Let's just try that for a few moments. This exhale, then the next one, the next one. During the inhale, just let everything go. If your mind wants to go nuts, it can. We're just working with this very manageable thing. Can we keep our mind steady for one exhale, the next one, feeling the breath physically? Let's just try it. I'm going to add a few more pointers to it as we go. It's okay if there's gaps where you don't feel it. That's okay. Some of us have really never tried to be that close, to pay such close attention to our breathing. As long as our attention is steady, then we'll notice where the gaps are. So our attention is still steady. That's what we're trying to do, keep steady attention. Now, if we're working with keeping our attention steady, paying close attention physically, and we've raised that attitude of interest or inquiry or curiosity, then we might notice that there's something quite intriguing about the exploration. Oh, how much can I notice? The mind likes like a little game or exercise. How much can I notice? Oh, a kid would like that, right? There's always that aspect of our mind. Can we bring that to bear on it? This is kind of intriguing. How much can I notice? Further, we're paying close attention to the breath here, but further with our broader awareness, can we watch to see is our attention more or less continuous? And further, what's happening in the rest of the body as we're paying close attention to the breath? What's happening in the rest of the body is exhales naturally trigger the relaxation response. So body, mind, emotions have a natural tendency to let go, release, relax during an exhale. Can we notice that while still keeping our attention on the breath? That's kind of where the balancing act between attention and awareness lies. It's entirely possible to do, though, although we may fall to one side or the other. Let's just watch that for a few breaths. I'm noticing closely the ever-changing array of sensations, but in a more broad way, I'm noticing my shoulders and back and my muscles, and maybe any tightness around anxiety or even my brain. They all feel like, oh, they would naturally like to let go, and it's not that hard to do during an exhale. If we just notice that they want, there's a natural tendency for that to happen anyway. The last point to add to it is notice that it's pleasant. Isn't this what we need to let go of tensions in body, mind, thinking mind, that's what I mean, and emotions? Just let them drain out of you into the ground. Let the muscles hang. Let yourself saturate with that feeling and with the quiet pleasure of that, letting go. Find the pleasure in it. Let our awareness of the pleasure become continuous as well. Can you let go any effort or trying that's in there, but still stay with it? Doesn't the pleasure and relaxation want to draw your mind to it, your attention to it, your awareness to it? If we let that happen, it's a powerful motivation to not want to grab the next thought stream, because that's just going to wreck this. It's just going to disturb it. So, situated in this increasingly effortless immersion in letting go, in awareness, in attention, in interest, who cares about the grocery list that the mind's going to throw? It's not that we cut it off, it's we see it, we're thankful to the mind is our friend, thinking mind is our friend, just trying to help. But it's as though we have the attitude of, thank you very much. I see what you're trying to do, appreciate it, but not right now. Last thing I'd like you to notice is the relaxation of every exhale is progressive. It intensifies throughout, even the short duration of an exhale, till at the very end, when the exhale finishes, but the inhale has not yet started, right in that turning point between breaths, there might be a moment, might be just an instant, where everything seems to stop. Can you notice that still point, or for a moment, nothing happened. If it feels comfortable, you can allow that moment to prolong until the inhale wants to happen. If it doesn't feel comfortable, don't worry. If you can just let yourself be aware of that moment where one thing's finished, the next thing is about to start, but it hasn't yet. Nothing's happening. Again, there's a pleasurable sense to that stillness. If we let ourselves sink into it. See if you can do that when you see it. See if you can just surrender to it. Oh, stillness. Sometimes there's a moment where it feels unsettling. It's okay, we're so used to doing and happenings. If we just let that be, we'll find beneath it that there's a great relief in nothing happening. See if we can see that, and if so, can we encourage some of it to stay with us? We can't grasp after the stillness, but we can appreciate it. Again, there's a natural tendency to be drawn towards it. Can we allow ourselves to be drawn into it? And maybe some of it will stick through the inhale. If we lose touch with it, there's another turning point when the inhale finishes and the exhale is about to begin. You might spot it again then. You might spot it again at the end of the next exhale. So through the inhale, we begin to apply our attention as well. That attention is more like allowing the stillness and the relaxation to not be disrupted during the inhale. So when we reach the next exhale, all of that deepens. The inhale has its own feeling we can get interested in. Can we connect up our attention so it goes around one full breath cycle? And then maybe the next. Of course, the thinking mind thinks there's better things to do. When it comes in, we have that attitude of thank you, I see you, I receive the thought. We're turning our attention back to what we're doing now. So let's try that, sinking into stillness and linking up the whole cycle of the breath. Perfect. That's it. You might find that if you can keep your continuity of attention fairly steady for even one full breath cycle, that the next breath cycle, our immersion and the stillness and the relaxation, the kind of feeling of presence may all deepen. The more it deepens, can we release more and more effort, so it starts to feel really quite effortless. You can always go back to basics, go back to the next exhale if you lose touch. If there are breaks in our attention or breaks in our larger awareness, that's okay, as long as we're aware of it. We're just headed towards being more continuous. Continuity of attention. But now remembering that the breath is our anchor to the present moment, but the real point of Zazen is the present moment. As our attention and awareness start to feel stable together, let's let another dimension of our direct experience this moment, let's let it into our awareness, that being sound. We're still aware of the breath, still aware of relaxation in the body, but we're allowing into our awareness sensations involving sound. See if you can resist identifying the sounds, thinking about them. See if you can receive them just as sound. You may be in a relatively quiet environment. You may be in a relatively noisy one. It doesn't really matter. We're allowing sound into our awareness. We're noticing sound seems to come out of nowhere, and then it'll vanish into nowhere. At least many sounds are like that. Notice sounds seem to appear out of a background of silence. Can we notice the silence, the space around the sound? Even in a busy environment, we wouldn't know one sound from the other if there wasn't a space between them. And notice how we can tell more or less where in that space the sounds are located. We know if they're far away, we know what direction they are. Not thinking about it, just perceiving. Distant sounds, near sounds, they come, they go. There may be some continuous sounds, we're just letting it all in. Also aware of our breath. Also aware of that sense of stillness that's underneath it all. Isn't sound interesting? We could pay that same curious, interested, non-thinking attention to this aspect of the present moment, sound, but also silence. We can actually perceive the silence between the sounds. Notice again that it's pleasant to notice. The more we allow ourselves to be curious, to enjoy the investigation, to feel the pleasantness, the less effort it takes. We're just paying attention because we want to pay attention. Maybe we can even allow in this other aspect of the present moment, which is specific feelings in the physical body. There's room in our awareness for this point of pressure, that point of pressure, that little feeling upon the skin. Also, the breath, of course, is physical. Can it all just be in our awareness? And noticing in physical sensation, there's also that sense of space. If there wasn't, we wouldn't be able to tell the difference between our breath and the sensation in our little toe. So we're noticing the sensations and we're noticing the space in which they appear. Don't thoughts arise just like that in a certain space? We say a thought arose in my mind. That's what we're talking about. We call that space the mind, or the term we've been using, awareness. So what if the thing that we call silence and the thing we call the mind and the space between the sensations and the physical body, what if all of that is the same thing? It's just our awareness. We have objects, sensory objects appearing in our awareness. It's all one sphere of awareness. It's not even a what if. If we notice, we'll see that's what it's like. We're aware. We can feel the awareness, and we can feel objects coming and going from awareness. Can we just notice that for a little bit? Breath is still there, body, sound. We're not grasping after any of it. A thought may arise and may float away. What happens if we let all the objects of awareness, sound, breath, thought, physical sensation, what if we let all that kind of fall to the background and we turn our attention more and more to the space of awareness? This is like when we come into a new house that we're thinking of moving into, our apartment. First thing we notice is the space. Oh, this is a nice space. Then we bring in all our furniture and belongings. We stop seeing the space, but the space is still there. We could turn our attention to it. That's what we're doing. We're turning our attention primarily to the space and letting the objects of awareness fall to the background. Again, noticing. It's pleasant to be in this space of awareness and to let all the objects of awareness just kind of handle themselves. Sometimes there's a moment where it feels unsettling, because isn't this kind of a big space, this awareness? But that's just another object of awareness. That's just another feeling. So emotional feelings, thoughts, they're all equivalent. They just come and go from the space of awareness. So we let that go too, and we might notice beneath that this feeling of immersion in just awareness in the big space. There's something pleasing about it, quietly pleasing. Can we let ourselves sink into that? Something like if we were in a field of perfect grass, nothing scratchy, no bugs, not too hot, not too cold, the sun's not too bright. We just are lying on our backs and we let ourselves relax and stretch into the space. That's the kind of feeling. We just stretch into the space of awareness. Just let anything that appears in awareness, just let it come and go. The awareness is the point. I'd like you to really let your perception stretch all the way out into the awareness towards where the horizon might be, if there was a horizon. Can we see how far it goes and notice that if a horizon or boundary or edge seems to appear, that's just another object in awareness. So awareness is unimpeded by any object. So the awareness just flows right past it. How far out does it go? Let ourselves stretch out as far as that awareness goes. Again, can we let go of any sense of doing? Can we just be here? Kind of cool, isn't it? I'm just aware. How far does it go? If any boundary appears, that's just another object. So go past any boundary. How far? I'm going to ask a truly absurd question. There's no right or wrong answer. We'll talk about it in a couple minutes. Just see what comes to mind when I ask yourself, in this big space of expanded awareness, what time is it? Don't tussle with the question, just let it float. See if you come up, see what comes to mind. And then just let it go, just enjoy the space. Okay, now I apologize, but I'm going to ask us to bring our focus in again more closely onto the physical breath, physical body, place we're sitting. Sensations that go with sitting here, sensations that go with breath. As we feel ready, you can begin to move fingers, toes, stretch a little if you wish. Bring the visual field in. If your eyes have been closed, open them, or if they've been open, just become aware of the visual field around you. Okay, now I want to take the opportunity to ruin all of this by talking about it. So, and I know it can be hard to make that transition, but I encourage you to do so. So, I'd be so interested to know what you experienced through all that. Would anyone like to share? Johanna, yes.
Yes, I found at the beginning, I found it was very difficult not to concentrate more on the in-breath. I was very distracted by the in-breath. And then I don't know quite how it shifted, but then it did shift. And I got much deeper into the sitting than I normally do. And I was thinking, oh gosh, I'd better have this taped for every day.
Isn't it nice? Yeah, you know, if it, the exhale tends to be easier to follow with a continuity to it because it's got that natural relaxation response. Mm-hmm. But I also find the in-breath compelling. If we really let ourselves get really nerdy about this, then each aspect of the breath, the inhale, the exhale, and the two spaces between, they all have their own specific feeling, and they can all become rather fascinating. And we can become very nerdy and geeky about wanting to dive into it. So in practicing on your own, if you find the in-breath is more compelling for you, go there. Why not? It's you can certainly do that. It's, you know, we have a natural capacity to bring our awareness and attention to something that calls to us because we're interested in it. We all do this. And if we can connect that up to what's happening in our practice and to an anchor such, the breath is such a convenient anchor and it has so many other qualities associated with it that if we can get interested in that, it'll take us deep. And being drawn in deeply because we're interested is I'm trying not to create a value judgment here, but it's really what we're after in practice. Less effort, more being drawn in, because this is the great adventure of our lives. So what is human consciousness, heart, thought, body? What are we doing here? What's the deal? We're really looking into that. This is a deep inquiry. This is serious stuff. We're not just calming ourselves down, you know? So anything that intrigues us, you're allowed to go there, Joanna. Go for it.
I found it really, really helpful to what you were saying about being aware of distractions, that watching out for leaks.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I found that that's something I want to really continue to be aware of. I found that incredibly helpful.
I'm glad. And also, that tends to interest that part of the brain that might otherwise spend its time thinking. It goes, it's like a kid on a video game. It goes, oh, this is cool. How many points can I get by seeing how continuous my attention is, you know? There's some part of our mind that likes little challenges like that. And, you know, this is, our zazen's a creative act. It's not a passive act. The more that we can engage with it, not in a grasping way, but in a way that well, this is fascinating. I know sometimes it's difficult too, but even difficulty is fascinating if we have the right attitude in looking at it. How do we know things are difficult? What is difficult? This takes so much effort. What is that for effort exactly? How can I tell it? Huh? What part of my body or mind do I know effort or difficulty in? It can all become quite an interesting study. The awareness that's receiving the stress is our truer home, and it's always operating. We use it all the time. We wouldn't be able to get to work and stress out about the things we have to do if we weren't operating from awareness. But we have learned, as children, we knew how to let everything in and be interested in everything. But then we gradually narrow our focus down and put our attention on things we have been told or we've come to think are important. And then we lose the larger picture. And then all the magic starts to go out of life because this little stressful task we have to do, it's hard to find the magic in there. It's easy to find the magic in the big picture. Let me ask you another question. From the standpoint of that larger awareness, which we just practiced, what's the difference between that feeling of stress and the sound of a bird outside? Become aware of whatever that, take the feeling in the stomach from stress maybe, and the sound of the bird outside. What's different about the way they arise in awareness? Or is there anything different? Go back to the awareness. We're floating in awareness. Everybody do this. Bring up a sensation we might think of as personal. If we can touch an anxious or stressed feeling often in our bellies or torsos. And then there's my voice you're hearing. Maybe there's the sound of a bird or a car. Maybe there's a neutral feeling in your foot. From the standpoint of big awareness, of the awareness, which is more important or should be significant than the other? What do you notice about it? In awareness, the stuff appears.
No difference.
No difference. All phenomena are created equal. So what is sifting between the phenomena and saying this is important and that's not? This is me and that's not. You want to see the operation of the self within a large awareness. It's a smaller factor within that's picking up the stress. Oh, I better focus on this, I better focus on this, I better focus on this. But Shikantaza, which means zazen, which means awareness, which means our true self nature as awareness. It's all equal. It's such a relief to begin to be able to hold our lives in that way. My problems are no more important than the one that Kim comes and talks to me about in the Dokusan room. The smell of the coffee from the kitchen and the sound of a car door outside is no more or less important from the standpoint of our true nature as limitless awareness. Oh, we gave it away. How big is that awareness?
Limitless.
How many people notice, could just perfectly clearly see there's no limit to it? How many people could see that? Yeah. Okay. If you can't see it, it's fine. The place to look, next time you're upset, notice, yes, you're upset, but that's not the only thing that's happening. You're aware of the upset. There's a bigger picture. We're always losing sight of the bigger picture, collapsing onto the painful or difficult or thing that we think is important. And the big picture goes away. But in the biggest picture, if my awareness is limitless and Kristen's awareness is limitless, what does that say about our awareness is? Our awareness is.
It's the same.
It's the same awareness. Without all the stuff that's in it, my awareness is exactly what's looking through my eyes at Kristen and Joanna and Seijo. It's exactly the same as what's looking out through your eyes at mine. This is in a way the point of Zazen, in a way, is that I'm not the, the question that a 6-year-old child asked, we probably all ask, well, if I wasn't me, who would I be? What would it be like if I was somebody else? Behind the overlay of our conditioning and our experiences and everything we learn and add into awareness, behind all that is identical. Our true nature is even identical, I'm sorry to say, to Adolf Hitler's true nature, although his was greatly obscured, right? But he couldn't get to those Nuremberg rallies if he wasn't using awareness too. He's just completely lost sense of, he's all caught up in the objects and the self-objects within it. If you were to cast an eye back at all the objects we let go of, do you have a sense of them falling to the background? How many people could sense them falling to the background like that? Could you have that sense? You could let them go to the background and focus on the big awareness. You could let all this objects of awareness just go by and just be in the big awareness, at least, yeah? Yeah. The other question about it is, what time is it there?
Doesn't apply.
Yeah, it doesn't apply, or you could say 10:58, or you could say no time. Yeah. Isn't that strange? In our awareness, in our pure awareness, if we let the objects fall to the background, and those background objects include everything we ordinarily think of as the self, as me. Those are all just objects in awareness. We're not sifting through them, saying this one's important, this one isn't, this one's me, this one's not me, this one I have to take care of, this one I don't have to take care of. We're just in the big awareness. That's the way we were born, right? We didn't know we had a self to take care of. When we saw this thing floating in front of our faces in our infancy, in the first couple months of infancy, we didn't know that's called my arm, and I'll eventually learn that its movements are controllable by me. We have no idea. It's just another phenomena, right? All that stuff's learned. Everything that makes Kristen and Sean separate from Joanna and Seijo and everyone else, it's all learned, right? We've all added it to the basic awareness we were born with, which is one of the reasons we might call it original mind, right? If we were in a theistic tradition, what would we call it? Limitless mind of awareness. That's shared by everyone.
God.
Yeah. So from now on, we don't have to have any problem with the God word, right? We understand what those people might be talking about it, even if they even if they don't see it exactly the same way we do. Yeah, there's a limitless universal consciousness that we are all, that is fundamental to our nature. That's what we're resting in Shikantaza. And I know we're out of time, but from the standpoint of that limitless universal awareness, how many people could feel the effortlessness of staying there once you got there? Yeah. It takes a little effort to travel there. You know, it's going to seem so self-evident. You're going to go home and try it. And you're going to go, okay, I'm just going to go there. Not going to work. You got to go through, just like we did, take some time. You know, you'll love this recording. But from the standpoint of that big limitless awareness, when Sean gets a literary award, or if Sean develops chronic fatigue at age 30 and can barely get out of bed, how do you think the awareness holds that? All the same, right? You know, I sometimes think that from that standpoint of the true nature or limitless awareness, that all our human problems are like the 4-year-old child who thinks there's a monster under the bed. As an adult, we go, it's not that we don't care about the 4-year-old, I hope. We're going to go to the 4-year-old and comfort her. And we know there's no monster under the bed, but we still take the deal seriously. If we want to investigate how our true nature interacts with our individual nature, both of which are real, both exist, it's much like that. Big nature knows it's not a problem. You know, great, Sean got an award. Too bad, Sean's got cancer, he's going to die. Oh well. You know, a true nature goes on, right? It's not disturbed by any of this. You know, the more we live in true nature, the less we'll be disturbed by. We won't even bother to stress out about the things we've been stressing out about, because are we going to stress out about the car door closing outside or the sound of the bird? No, it's, you know, the more we get that this is just stuff coming through awareness, and our awareness is our true home. This is what we're practicing in Shikantaza. This is the last secret of Shikantaza. There you go. We're done. Okay. We've solved everything. Thank you all very much. I'll hang out a little bit afterwards. I know we're out of time. If anybody wants to chat a little bit, I can stay for a few minutes. Pleasure practicing with all of you. Try it. Try it. Try it. Listen to this series. I've given you everything I have. That's all I got. I don't have to even show up anymore.